Michael Saylor just executed what might go down as the single greatest wealth creation move in corporate history, and the financial establishment is furious about it. We're talking about a $54 billion unrealized gain, locked up in cold storage as 649,870 Bitcoin, more than any sovereign nation except the United States itself owns. A decade-old enterprise software company that barely anyone outside of IT departments could name in 2020 is now the undisputed heavyweight champion of corporate Bitcoin ownership. But here is what separates Saylor from every other CEO who ever pressed buy on crypto. He didn't just accumulate Bitcoin. He weaponized an obscure accounting rule and turned a sleepy Virginia-based analytics firm into the most elegant, legal, publicly traded Bitcoin proxy the world has ever seen. Wall Street's smartest minds couldn't get direct Bitcoin exposure into their funds because of regulations, custodianship nightmares, or simply because their compliance departments would rather die than sign off on it. Saylor handed them the perfect workaround. Just buy shares of MSTR on the Nasdaq, same as Apple or Microsoft, and suddenly you own leveraged Bitcoin exposure with none of the headaches. No KYC, no private keys, no wallet drama. Just good old-fashioned stock certificates backed 1-to-1, and then some by actual sats in a vault. The payoff was biblical. While the S&P 500 delivered its usual respectable mid-teens returns and even the magnificent NVIDIA rode the AI rocket, MicroStrategy stock didn't just beat the market, it obliterated it by orders of magnitude. Billionaire funds, state pension plans, university endowments, every institution that was dying to get Bitcoin allocation, but couldn't figure out how to do it the right way, quietly loaded up on MSTR. Saylor didn't break the system. He found a side door the system forgot to lock. You'd think the gatekeepers of high finance would throw a parade for a man who delivered that kind of alpha. This is America, after all. Spot the trend early, take asymmetric risk, execute ruthlessly, and get filthy rich. That's the whole game. Except the priests of passive investing don't like it when someone gets too rich, too fast, using a playbook they didn't write. Because in their holy scripture, there is one commandment above all others. Thou shalt not concentrate more than 50% of thy assets in a single position. And Michael Saylor didn't just break that rule. He took it out back, shot it in the head, and danced on its grave. Now the index overlords are sharpening their knives. January 15, 2026, mark that date. That's when the Nasdaq-100 Reconstitution Committee sits down in a conference room somewhere and decides who belongs in the most widely tracked growth stock index on Earth. For 99% of companies, it's a formality. For MicroStrategy, it's an execution date. If they boot MSTR from the Nasdaq-100, and every rumor leaking out of the committee says they will, the fallout won't be pretty. It will be mechanical, merciless, and almost perfectly predictable. Here is the part most retail investors still don't fully grasp. Over $300 billion in ETF money, led by the mighty Invesco. QQQ Trust is legally required to own every single stock in the Nasdaq-100 in exact proportion. These aren't human beings analyzing balance sheets. These are algorithms with zero discretion. The moment the index provider says, MicroStrategy is out, every one of those funds gets the same order at the same second. Sell every share you own right now. Price be damned. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars in MSTR stock hitting the bid stack simultaneously. Market makers will widen spreads to the moon. Circuit breakers might trip. The stock could easily open 30, 40, maybe 50% lower in a single session. Not because the Bitcoin thesis changed, not because the company is suddenly insolvent, but because a committee in a back office decided diversity of assets matters more than delivering the best risk-adjusted return in modern history. That's the dirty little secret of modern markets. Win too big, too creatively, and the system has tools to punish you for it. This isn't about protecting investors. This is about protecting the illusion that passive index funds are the only safe way to invest. That active risk-taking on the scale Saylor just demonstrated is dangerous and must be discouraged. When MicroStrategy potentially gets excommunicated from the Nasdaq-100, it won't just be a line item in some quarterly rebalancing report. It will be a warning shot fired across the bow of every entrepreneur, CEO, and investor who still believes outsized vision should be rewarded instead of regulated into oblivion. Michael Saylor didn't just buy Bitcoin. He exposed the contradiction at the heart of today. As a financial system, they'll cheer you for beating the market until you beat it so badly they have to change the rules to stop you. January 15th is coming. And when the machines are ordered to sell, we'll all get to watch in real time exactly how much the gatekeepers hate it when someone actually wins. Picture this. When you hit market sell on a couple hundred shares of something, the exchange barely blinks. The order vanishes into the order book like a raindrop into the ocean. But what happens when the ocean itself suddenly decides to sell all at once? That's the nightmare scenario brewing for MicroStrategy and, by extension, for Bitcoin itself. The big passive beasts, the Vanguard ETFs, the BlackRock index funds, the State Street spiders are not sentimental investors. They are robots with ironclad mandates. If MicroStrategy is in the Nasdaq-100, they own it. If it gets kicked out, they must sell it. No discretion, no mercy, no weekend to think it over. Hundreds of millions of shares, sometimes billions in dollar terms, get hurled onto the market in a pre-programmed, price-insensitive avalanche. JP Morgan's quant team has been circulating private notes to their biggest clients for months with two words underlined in red: liquidity trap. They're not talking about a 20% correction or a nasty drawdown. They're talking about the day the bid simply disappears. One analyst compared it to trying to sell a supertanker's worth of crude oil in a small fishing village. There are no buyers at any price that resembles sanity. And that's what makes MicroStrategy uniquely fragile right now. Because Michael Saylor didn't just buy Bitcoin with spare change. He built the largest corporate treasury of Bitcoin on Earth, north of $50 billion at today's prices, by turning the company into one giant leveraged bet. He sold convertible bonds by the billions, sophisticated IOUs that pay a tiny coupon but give the lender the right to swap the debt for shares at a fixed price later. It was financial alchemy while the stock was soaring. Lenders were thrilled. Either collect the interest forever or convert into equity that kept doubling. But every single one of those contracts rests on a silent, deadly assumption that there will always be a functioning, liquid market for MSTR stock. Break that assumption and the house of cards doesn't wobble, it detonates. Many of these convertible notes contain hidden tripwires, stock price triggers, debt-to-equity covenants, material adverse change clauses. If the share price craters hard enough, fast enough, lenders can hit the panic button and demand immediate repayment of principal, sometimes hundreds of millions, sometimes billions, all at the same time. Now ask yourself, where does the cash come from? MicroStrategy's balance sheet is stunningly simple. One line item dwarfs everything else: Bitcoin. Everything else, the legacy software business, the cash, the office furniture, is rounding error. To meet a sudden multi-billion-dollar repayment demand, Saylor would have to sell Bitcoin. Not a few thousand coins, not a few 100,000, but potentially tens of billions of dollars worth in a matter of days. Anyone who has ever tried to move 9-figure size in crypto knows what happens next. The OTC desks choke. The exchanges light up red. Spreads blow out to 5, 10, 15%. Every block trade hammers the price lower, which scares the next desk into demanding an even bigger discount. Bitcoin itself would enter a violent vertical air pocket. And the lower Bitcoin goes, the worse MicroStrategy's balance sheet looks, which triggers more covenant breaches, which forces more Bitcoin sales, which pushes Bitcoin lower still. Classic reflexive death spiral. The same doom loop that destroyed hedge funds in 2008 and crypto lenders in 2022, only this time on steroids and in public. There is no Fed put for this. There is no systemic risk exemption that pauses index rebalancing. The Nasdaq committee meets, they look at the numbers. And if Bitcoin still accounts for more than 50% of total assets, which it overwhelmingly does, deletion is automatic. January 15th, 2026, less than 2 months from now, is not a rumor or a possibility. It is a scheduled event written into the index methodology in black and white. Saylor has almost no good moves left. Sell Bitcoin preemptively to shrink the concentration ratio? That would collapse the Bitcoin price early and still might not be enough to get under the 50% threshold in time. Buy another company the size of Salesforce overnight to diversify assets? Impossible. There's nothing for sale that big, and even if there were, the market would annihilate the stock on dilution. Renegotiate every convertible note to remove the covenants? Good luck convincing lenders to weaken their protections when they can already smell blood in the water. So January 15th arrives. The announcement drops after the close. By the time Asia opens, the passive selling algorithms are already live. Hundreds of millions of shares hit a market that has exactly zero natural buyers waiting, because the only structural buyers for the last 2 years have been those same passive funds. The stock opens down 30%, then 50%, then the exchange halts it. When it reopens, the halts come faster. Circuit breakers trip repeatedly. Convertible holders, watching their collateral evaporate in real time, start sending default notices before breakfast. By midday, MicroStrategy's treasurer is on the phone begging for revolving credit lines that don't exist. By the following day, law firms are drafting acceleration letters. Within a week, the company could be staring at bankruptcy or a fire sale of its entire Bitcoin stack at Depression-era prices. And the contagion wouldn't stop at MSTR, every Bitcoin ETF, every crypto custody account at Fidelity or Schwab, every pension fund that dipped a toe into the largest corporate holder of the asset. They all get dragged into the vortex. A 20 to 40% wipeout in Bitcoin in a matter of days is entirely plausible under that kind of forced liquidation volume. This isn't some fringe doomsday theory. This is the exact scenario that keeps risk officers at the largest institutions awake at night. They have modeled it. They have gamed it out. And every single simulation ends the same way. Unprecedented wealth destruction, triggered not by fraud or recession or regulation, but by a boring mechanical index rule that nobody can negotiate with. Michael Saylor built the most audacious corporate Bitcoin bet in history, and for 4 years it looked like genius. But genius that ignores the plumbing of modern markets eventually meets the immovable object of passive investing. January 15th is when we find out whether the object moves or whether the genius gets crushed. The clock is ticking. The trap is sprung. And there is no adult in the room who can turn the robots off. Imagine a single domino perfectly placed, waiting for one gentle push. That domino has a name, MicroStrategy. And when it falls, it could drag the entire Bitcoin market down with it in a way few people truly comprehend. Right now, every avenue Michael Saylor once used to fund his historic Bitcoin buying spree has quietly slammed shut. The convertible bond market that once threw hundreds of millions at him? Frozen. Equity investors willing to keep pouring cash into a company that behaves more like a Bitcoin vault than a software firm? Vanished. Traditional lenders? They've already lent him more than most countries owe. That leaves only one door still cracked open. The door marked "Sell the Bitcoin." The same Bitcoin that millions of people around the world have been begging him, praying to him, not to touch. You might shrug and say, okay, he sells a chunk, pays the bonds, keeps the dream alive. No big deal. If only it were that simple. MicroStrategy currently sits on 649,870 BTC. At today's prices, that's north of $54 billion locked inside a single corporate treasury. $54 billion. To put that in perspective, the entire daily trading volume across every Bitcoin exchange on the planet is usually a small fraction of that number. The market is deep for retail traders moving 5 or 10 grand. It's reasonably deep for whales moving a few million. But 54 billion? That kind of size doesn't swim in the ocean, it is the ocean. The moment credible rumors hit Telegram groups, Discord servers, and trading desks that Saylor is being forced to liquidate even a portion of that stack, the psychology flips overnight. Professional traders don't wait for confirmation, they front run. Shorts pile on. Market makers yank their bids because nobody wants to be the last buyer standing under a collapsing building. The mere whisper of a giant sell order becomes the catalyst that guarantees the price collapses far harder than anyone modeled. And here's the part that keeps serious crypto analysts up at night. He wouldn't need to sell anywhere close to all of it. Studies of Bitcoin order book depth and historical liquidation cascades suggest that unloading just 10 to 15% of MicroStrategy holdings in a short window would be enough to break the market's back. We're not talking about a healthy 5 to 10% correction. We're talking about a vertical drop-stop losses triggering, leveraged longs exploding, futures basis going haywire, and exchange withdrawal queues freezing as panic spreads. In the worst scenarios people have gamed out, Bitcoin could lose half its value in less than a day. When that happens, it doesn't matter if you bought your coins at $4,000 in 2017 or $90,000 last month. It doesn't matter if you a die-hard maximalist who runs a node or a boomer who bought one ETF share because your advisor said, digital gold. Everyone gets rinsed the same. Retirement accounts, college funds, life savings parked in grayscale, or spot ETF, everything tied to Bitcoin's price gets dragged into the same abyss, right alongside Michael Saylor's own fortune. Step back for a second and really look at how insane this situation is. How did we reach a point where a routine decision by a faceless index committee at Nasdaq can threaten to erase tens of billions of dollars across an entire global asset class? This isn't supply and demand playing out naturally. This is a single bureaucratic checkbox. Sorry. Your company is no longer diversified enough for the Nasdaq 100, potentially igniting a forced liquidation event of historic proportions. And now we arrive at the theory that's too neat, too vicious to dismiss outright. Call it the Trojan horse hypothesis, the great ambush, or the bank heist in plain sight. Different analysts use different names, but the outline is chillingly similar. For years, the legacy financial system watched Bitcoin grow from a cypherpunk toy into something that could actually replace parts of their monopoly. They couldn't seize it, couldn't inflate it, couldn't insert themselves in the middle of every transaction and skim their 2 to 3%. A successful Bitcoin is an existential threat wrapped in code. Outright bans were tried in some countries and backfired spectacularly. Heavy-handed regulation only strengthened the narrative that banks and governments were scared. So instead, the smartest players chose a different path. Let the most aggressive, loudest, most leveraged buyer in the ecosystem keep buying, cheer him on, even. Extend him credit, structure creative convertible notes. Let him corner more and more of the floating supply until one entity effectively became the market's central nervous system. Then wait for the exact moment when a single rule changed perfectly legal, perfectly boring, perfectly defensible turns all of that beautiful leverage into a loaded gun pointed straight at Bitcoin's head. If MicroStrategy is kicked out of the Nasdaq 100 in January, the forced selling that follows doesn't just hurt Michael Saylor. It resets the entire price discovery process at a level the traditional system finds much more comfortable: $40,000, maybe $50,000. And waiting patiently on the bid side with freshly printed fiat and pre-approved custody solutions? The same mega banks and asset managers who spent the last 5 years quietly building crypto desks while publicly scoffing at volatility. The irony would be poetic if it weren't so brutal. The man who tried to outrun Wall Street, who mocked fiat and leveraged his company to the hilt to prove Bitcoin was superior, could end up being the very mechanism that delivers hundreds of thousands of pristine, never moved coins straight into the cold storage of JP Morgan, BlackRock, BNY Mellon, and friends at fire sale prices. They wouldn't even need a conspiracy meeting. No smoky rooms, no secret handshakes. Just a committee following its written guidelines, some margin desks doing their jobs, and market forces doing what they do best when someone is forced to sell the unsellable. Michael Saylor once said owning Bitcoin was like owning Manhattan real estate in the 1700s. He positioned himself as the ultimate long-term believer, the corporate version of a nation-state treasury. But on January 15th, when the index rebalancing decision is finalized, we may discover something far darker: that the greatest Bitcoin accumulation in history was never a victory lap. It was the bait. And the trap is about to snap shut. So ask yourself, while there's still time, if the largest corporate holder of Bitcoin suddenly becomes the largest forced seller in Bitcoin history, where does that leave you? The clock is ticking, the domino is trembling. And when it falls, the sound will be heard around the world.